something shifted. I think everybody was like, oh, okay, we're here. Everybody's gonna go all in. And over that 10 days, there was this bond and this revelry, and there was absolutely a magic between the three of us. And I think we went in not knowing if it was going to be anything, and I think we left that 10 days of the Sonic Ranch as Midland.
Hello and welcome to Country Roads with me, Ben Earl. This is my new podcast where I chat to some of the biggest names in country music, as well as some new artists you may not know so well yet. Together we'll learn more about them through the places that have made them who they are today. Because everywhere you go becomes a part of who you are. You leave your tracks in the dirt and the land leaves its mark on the music. So I want to know what roads, both the real ones and the imagined ones, our favourite artists have travelled on to find what feels like home to them. This is Country Roads. Now, it's definitely going to get a little cozy in the studio today because I'm sitting down with the three amigos that make up Midland. They are Cameron Duddy, Mark Wisetrack, and Jess Carson. They've all had different sort of upbringings. They come from different parts of the States, but they all came together at Cam's wedding. And now they're 11 years in now and 4 albums deep. They're still referred to as the funnest thing in country music. They've got a real reputation for having a good time. But they also describe themselves as kind of music historians, and their love of classic country is certainly the thing that kind of binds them together. I just feel funny because historian doesn't really paint them in the right kind of image because they are, like I said, they have a reputation for having a very good time, and they definitely bring the spirit of a Texan Honky Tonk to every single show they play. That's why their debut single, Drinkin Problem, went straight to #1. There was no one else like them on the scene. But far from being a one-hit wonder, they've really continued to develop their own style ever since, with everything from their sound to their iconic fashion choices. And I just cannot wait to see what they're wearing today. There's lots to say, but I'm going to let them do the talking. This is Midland. I'm very excited to welcome to the Country Roads podcast, Mark, Jess, and Cameron, better known as Midland. Guys, welcome.
Thanks Ben.
for having us.
Great to be here.
How you doing? You good?
Yeah. We are... How many days into this tour are we?
I don't know.
2 weeks?
No.
5 weeks.
It seems like we've been gone for 3 months. We played a ton of shows. Every single show has been escalating and getting crazier and crazier, and the shows have been sold out. The fans have been amazing. So it's...
Yeah, I'm watching you guys on Instagram. You do have the look of people who've been on a bus for 2 weeks, though. No offense. You do seem quite tired. I know what that's like. I'm an artist myself.
Fully shell-shocked. Yeah, there's definitely, it's like 16 of us. We usually have 2 buses in the States, and now we're cramming into 1 bus.
Okay.
Because it's the economically responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
And day one, the bus was quite nice, and then by the first week, it's just detritus everywhere. Like, every nook and cranny is filled with somebody's dirty socks or...
Okay. Who's the messiest?
It's impossible to tell. Everything is
there's so much shit everywhere.
Into each other's stuff, and
it's got a certain stink. And then the buses, the way that the stacked buses here, the double deckers, you can't. At least I can't stand up.
Yeah.
Ever. The only place I can stand up is in the stairwell going upstairs, and sometimes I'll just kind of stand and stretch. The rest of the time, I'm walking around like this. I don't know how many times you guys have hit your head. I've hit my head. I lost count. I've hit my head so many times. But the bus driver's amazing. He's from Poland, Conrad. He's really into music. He's really into vintage clothes and shopping and stuff like that. And we've got to hang with our bus driver a little bit, and he's been sharing us a lot of his favorite Polish artists. And in general, I think that doing tours like this in the United States, we tour for. We'll fly out Thursday to wherever the weekend's starting. Let's say like the last one we just did, we flew up to Montana. We drive to the venue, meet the bus, play a show, and then we'll play 3 shows, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'll be home very often by the AM on a Sunday, back with our families, home all week. So And then again, it's separate buses, as Cameron was saying. So this, I feel like it's a really great way to bond with your entire band and your entire crew, and to be out in foreign countries, experiencing the cultures and having all these amazing experiences together, going to museums, going to floating saunas on the fjords of Norway together, finding little funky bars, going to great dinners together, and then playing the just the sheer volume of shows. I just feel like right now our band is extremely tuned up, and I think it's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, you're
touring
so
band.
close, you can't help but just sort of be the intro.
But it's exhausting in a fun way. But
Yeah. I can't wait. I know, because I've toured a lot myself, and I know come like 11 o'clock tonight, you guys will be on the bus and the energy will be completely different, won't it? You'll be post-show, just like having your best life.
Oh, yeah, it'll be gnarly. And when you wake up in the morning, you're like, yeah, there's no way I'm doing that tonight. It's just, I don't have the energy for it. I'm just going to play a clean show and go to bed. And, of course, every night you get off, and then one drink turns into 15, and you're, passing the auxiliary cord around. We play dice these days now, which is kind of a fun way to pass the time.
Little trips.
It's fun. It's like being pirates.
Yeah.
It's like being deployed without war. It's very strange. Like these, it's not. There's nothing quite like it in like pedestrian society, right? Like, I was talking to my buddy, our friend yesterday, who's just happens to be here. We ended up going out to the pub and having a few drinks yesterday, and he was like, man, because he does. I love when you slurp tea.
I mean,
It's
how
one
else
of my
do you
favorite
how else
things
do you
in the
do
world.
it? You can't
This is what happens to you. You just like start to the grinding of things that people do. It's totally innocuous. Like, bro,
That's good slurp. That's a good slurping action.
nah, it's so.
I don't know how
fun
else you
to
drink
do.
it.
You just
piping hot tea.
you blow on it and then you go, and then you don't have to slurp it.
I've got a 9 and 7-year-old. This is exactly the kind of conversation. This is like I can break you guys up.
But it's crazy because like there's nothing quite like doing this thing and playing music and going around. There's so many different other art forms that don't require such a strange and taxing effort.
Yeah.
You
said pirate. I've always thought of like the circus. It's like you turn up in a
It's
town.
totally
a
like the
city,
circus, man.
Do your thing, you get out, and see some amazing places.
pop the tent up.
traveling troupe, of performers. I don't know. It's the best time you'll ever have, just absolutely killing yourself.
Yeah. Love it. You guys have a reputation a bit for having a good time. The first question, we normally sort of dig into people's backstories, but we want to know, do you know the game Snog, Marry, Avoid? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, it's like Mary.
Shag, Marry, Kill.
Shag, Marry,
We
Kill.
didn't want to say that, though. I mean, that was a bit too tough. But we were thinking, in terms of like a Texan honky tonk, a British pub, or like a downtown Nashville bar.
Well, I could tell you the worst is the bar. And
The
Downtown Nashville bar,
Nashville.
really?
That's not
Okay,
even in the
that's-
running. Kill that one.
that's not
Done.
ours, yeah.
Done.
Okay, let's avoid.
Mary would be probably the Texas Honky Tonk.
Okay.
And then the flirting, whatever the other one is, it's like short-term
British
love
pub.
affair is the pub.
Okay.
The Texas Honky Tonk is the equivalent of the British pub. It really is something very unique that's only authentic if you're in country. If you're in Texas, there's nothing like it. And you can export that. They have honky tonks now in New York, and they have for a long time in LA and stuff like that. But there's really nothing like it. If you're going down to like Green Hall on a Friday night and seeing, one of your favorite artists, Dwight Yoakam will go play there.
Really? Wow.
We've played there a bunch. You can go to any of these honky tonks in Texas and see some of the best acts. And it's a really authentic thing because that's where it's from. That's where it's born and bred. And when you come out to a pub here, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
When you go to Dublin, there's no better pull of Guinness in the world.
Have you done the Storehouse tour? Have you done that tour in the Guinness
I
Factory?
have. Yeah, I did it when I was really young. And, I think that we were just really kind of live in the moment and every day to day. Like we were talking the other day about how much is left of the tour. And Cameron goes, well, we're 53% through. And Jess goes, oh man, I really wish you didn't say that, dude. Because you can't think of tomorrow. You can't think about
really
you still
can't.
got like another week or
You just
whatever.
have to do one day at a time.
You just got to fully live in the moment and go for it.
What are you thinking, Jess?
Yeah, I think what Mark said, I think like your pub culture here is so, I don't think it exists anywhere. I don't think it exists in America. They're open during the day. They're not super loud. You don't have to shout to have a conversation. You can get into conversations with people from all walks of life, and it's like a social club. It would probably be closer to maybe like a Lions Club or something like that in America. But, our version, equally, you can't replicate it anywhere, especially, I think the Texas Honky Tonk and the ones within this like 60, 70 mile radius of Austin, there's been so much music that either came out of there or was developed there. And there are bands that you've never heard of that are big in the honky tonks. They're, some of the best players and songwriters that we know, as well as, legends like Willie Nelson and all the outlaw stuff that happened in the 80s. Even just one example, Lukenbach, from the beginning of when that became a honky tonk, they've had this acoustic guitar jam session like going on in this room of just people who show up, and they've got guitars there that you can just play, and and these guys sit around and play together, and it's something uniquely Texan, and the same way the pubs are uniquely British.
I think we don't appreciate it here because we just think of it as country. A lot of people do. Like, it's quite a big genre that's up and coming, but we forget that there is a real Texas scene. I know our big artists like Cody Johnson are breaking through. They're broken through, but there's a real Texan scene, isn't there? It's like I said before, this podcast is all about the places though that have shaped, and you guys are a really well-travelled band. Obviously, Texas, I think, is probably the heart of Midland, but LA is where the kind of whole story starts for you guys. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So you were out there. Because you both were in bands with Cam in LA, is that right, at the start?
Yeah.
You had, what are the names again? You had Young Whiskey.
Oh, man. Well, the Young Whiskey was the most normal name that we had for a band. Jess and I were in a band that had like 50 different names at one point. And
Major Grace and the Hard Luck Chancers.
that was like the most, that was the most like thought out one. Stranger Louie was one that we had for a while. The After Hours was the band that I came into when my cousin was playing in Jess's band. But regardless, it was the early 2000s rock scene in LA was still kind of happening, and it was an exciting time to be out there. But and that's where we all met.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of great music happening in the early 2000s in LA, like emanating out of LA, like Alex Ebert's bands, all those bands that he did, including Edward Sharpe, The Color, and
we used to play shows, and we're coming up with Dawes.
This is Dawes,
and they were amazing. Yeah, we got to play some.
And
shows
they weren't. It was when
really
he was Simon Dawes before that, and Shiny Toy Guns, and
you guys doing a country thing though at this point?
Well, no, Jess and I were in a rock and roll band, and Mark and I's band was more like Americana.
Okay,
and then
country. It was Americana country rock and roll. We would do we'd do original kind of stuff that was probably more Americana rock and roll. We'd have a horn section with our friends, the Brothers Gypsies, and but we would do Silver Wings. We'd do Amanda. We would do country covers.
But we would also do like Dexy's Midnight Runners in our rock and roll band. So it was like kind of amalgamous all the way around, right? There was just a bunch of different influences for all the bands.
It's kind of like your musical university in a way, or education.
Yeah,
you're finding your way, I guess.
Yeah,
say?
Yeah. I think it was just starting to, the country couture, so to speak, was just like in this baby infant stages happening in LA. And then we all kind of got busy doing like big boy stuff because, Tom Petty famously said, if you want to start a band, don't go to LA. It's
Never heard that.
terribly difficult place to start a musical career because it's very competitive, and not just because of that, but there's no real like community.
Yeah,
everyone's out there on their own, and
you gave up, didn't you? I saw you gave up. Just kind of.
I moved on. I think that's. I prefer saying move on.
Sorry.
I had moved on.
You moved on.
I had moved on.
You fucking gave up, right?
Man, I looked at music and I said, I can't make a dime doing this anymore. And I think everybody came to that conclusion. It was probably time to, pay the bills and stuff. So everybody went and did some more grown-up things while also entertaining, different elements of creativity.
But your grown-up thing is directing music videos. Yours is acting. And then, Jess, I don't know your backstory. I couldn't find anything out.
Yeah, he's lived in the
real
shadows.
enigma.
He's had everything stripped from the internet.
Yeah. Have you actually? Because I couldn't find out anything really, apart from a Christmas tree farm you grew up on. But
Yeah, well, yeah. So I came down to LA from Oregon, So my thing was I started writing songs actually, I remember on that farm, I remember while I was working, I should have been working, and I would be playing guitar, and I had a friend who is one of those friends that you believe when they tell you something about music. And he had just evangelized about Townes Van Zandt.
Okay.
And just over and over and over just told me that Townes Van Zandt was just the greatest thing that ever had happened. And I do still love Townes Van Zandt. But at that time, I did get into a thing where he was the guy. So I was, the first songs that I wrote were kind of trying to sound like Townes Van Zandt. And then I moved down to LA, did these bunch of different bands, bunch of different versions. Cameron replaced his cousin in a band that we were in. We also at one point had a brass section.
It was the same guys.
Same guys, yeah.
It's a rotating cast characters.
These were Jess's roommates, consequently.
Yeah.
where are they now? What they do?
Who knows? They were living in a cave before they came to LA, literally, in Spain. And
Okay.
yeah,
As you do.
like a cave, a cave of bohemians that just play music.
It's been so loud in that cave brass.
Oh,
Yeah,
man,
it's
so loud. So the acoustics.
But
I keep up with Justin. They're doing like soundtracks, composing.
Oh, cool.
They're composers now.
But back to Jess's origin stories,
Sorry.
which is really what's interesting here, because I don't know.
and then LA and me weren't a symbiotic fit. It was hard for me to be in LA. I was there for 6 years, and I felt like I was struggling the whole time. There were so many times where the band was like, it felt like it was gonna make it or whatever, get a record deal and stuff like that. It just didn't happen. And so I moved back up to Oregon and started a new band up there, and was when I got really like down the middle country,
Yeah.
like I got really into this guy, Gary Stewart, and then a lot of the 80s stuff that back when I was into Townes Van Zandt, I thought was not cool, like George Strait or Alan Jackson, because I was like, Townes Van Zandt is like left of the dial. But I started getting into all that kind of stuff, and then just even what was on the radio, at that, because that was still, I forget what year, but there was good stuff on like those early Eric Church albums. Those were
Yep, of course.
influential, and we had just kept in touch, and it wasn't until Cameron's wedding.
I was going to say, yeah, that's the infamous wedding, the lightning bolt you guys talk about. I've heard so many stories.
Yeah.
I don't know which ones are true.
They're all true.
It's a true story. I mean, we got up there. Jess and I hadn't seen each other, and I knew Jess more peripherally, and so Jess had left, and then we both were groomsmen for Cameron's wedding up in Jackson Hole. So Cameron invited us to come basically like a week before, just to go, and he wanted to show us, a place that was near and dear to his heart, where his grandma had a place, and they'd done their summers ever since he was a little kid and stuff. So Jess and I came up early, and the very first night at Cameron's mother-in-law's cabin, we had guitars, and we just sat outside, and we just started swapping songs, and then we started playing songs together, and then we came up with this idea to play at the talent show that Cameron was doing on the rehearsal dinner night. And so that was technically the first time we ever like performed in public together.
What song did you play? Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, we did Wicked Game by Chris Isaac,
Yeah.
but we did it as a goof where we would sing it, and then Jess would go into Johnny Be Good guitar solo for no reason, just to kind of screw with
We thought
everybody.
that was the funniest thing.
We thought it was really, really funny. But then on Cameron's actual wedding day, I came over to Jess's cabin where the wedding after dinner was. And we were sitting there just swapping songs back and forth. And Jess looked at me and he goes, dude, we should do something.
Oh, so cool.
There. And I looked at Jess and I go, like, go help set up for the wedding party. And he goes, no, like we should try to do a music project together. And literally right when he said that, a bolt of lightning hit like right where Cameron was setting up the tent and the lights, and he almost got, I think, struck by lightning.
Literal, wow, yeah.
So that was the moment, and then
I was like Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
yeah. But then from that moment, it was really Cameron that kind of took the initiative to get Jess and I together and kind of organized on on an email chain and sending songs back and forth, and then Jess was already living out in Austin at this time, and he knew this guy, David Garza. And, the concept came together to go record at this place where David is basically the resident producer. He's the guru of the Sonic Ranch out in West Texas, just east of El Paso. So we saved up, as much money as we could. We took Cameron's wedding dowry and paid for the studio.
Nice. How's the wife about this? She okay about that?
It was my money. It was it was the money I made in the music video.
Okay.
So Cameron had some dough, and he put up the money for to go in the studio, and then we brought out David, and it was me, Jess, and Cam was out there, kind of as I feel like he was there to kind of document it and maybe produce and just help, get the thing going.
And it's easy to say no, but did you know? Because obviously everything's gone so amazing. But did you know? Was it so different to LA?
Me and Jess going into it knew that we were gonna, of course, involve Cameron, having both played in bands with him. And I think Cameron was probably like lying to himself that he wasn't going to. But of course, the first day of session is like, well, we need somebody to play bass on this. So Cameron jumped in, and then I think the first session was so much fun. And I don't remember what the first song is that we cut. But I just know that everybody was like, something shifted. I think everybody was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're here. Everybody's going to go all in, and everybody's going to throw whatever they have to contribute. They're going to do it at 150%. Yeah. And over that 10 days of, figuring out what songs we want to do, editing songs on the fly, and some cases writing together in the studio live. And throughout that 10 days, there was this bond and this revelry, and there was absolutely a magic between the three of us. And I think we went in not knowing if it was going to be anything, and I think we left that 10 days of the Sonic Ranch as Midland, with now a mission to go and, take this thing as far as we could.
Yeah. Well, what was, when you say take as far as you could, what was was there an ambition? Was it like, we're going to be the biggest band in the world, or what was
I think for me, what was really provocative, and what I personally had come away from the years in LA playing in bands, it wasn't just in LA, it starts in the Bay Area, starting bands in sixth grade, right? And I figured out at some point, oh man, you just can't be the fourth gen Strokes, we're too far behind the curve on that, just based on when we got together in Jess and I's band, and when and how far along the music had gone at that point in rock and roll culture and whatnot. And what was really interesting to me leaving the Sonic Ranch was here was country music in a really interesting format, genre. And it was very much in the vein of the shit that I was listening to at the time and way into, right? Like the Byrds and really 60s West Coast country. 60s, Neil Young is huge for me. And obviously the Eagles are on the Mount Rushmore of greatest bands of all time.
Graham Parsons.
I'm not as big a Graham Parsons guy, but just for me personally. And so I found an identity, or I identified in those songs that we had gotten together, oh, here's a real interesting entry point back into music. And it doesn't feel like we're the third, second, or fourth gen anything
Yeah.
right now. It felt very modern and on the forefront or cutting edge or whatever you want to call it,
100%,
right?
100%.
And it was before predates Sturgill. Not that Sturgill wasn't already percolating at that point somewhere in the world doing his music, you know? It was predated John Party's first record. It's somewhere after Eric Church's version of like rock country. But when we showed up to Nashville with this stuff, you know, the hunch was correct. People were like, wow, this is really exotic that you guys are playing like Flying Burrito Brothers version of country music in Texas.
Yeah.
So all that blend made it with Mark's voice and then our harmonies and then Jess's songs in the beginning and just the kind of jangliness of everything. We had all these really good demos. We didn't stop at the Sonic Ranch. We kept demoing out. So the short story of that is that it felt anything worth spending completely slamming the brakes and taking a left-hand turn in your life needs to be so undeniably provocative that you can't imagine not doing it, or else you feel like you cheated yourself and everybody else.
And I really feel that like that struggle you had in LA and then finding that sound, you know, that to me is it's very country in a way. It's a true story, and country is that story. Whereas, you know, I know you've had points like questions about authenticity. What is country? What isn't? You know, and I think everything you just described is like you guys found your sound and your music like historians in a way. Like you know what you're talking about and really so country. And everything you just described.
It evolves too, right? It's like we have never ever made the same thing. Even the first record after the Sonic Ranch was different than an evolution of what we were after. And the authenticity factor is just it's a nothing burger. It's a nothing conversation, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
It's a not I'm not trying to diminish any provocative conversation here, but like if you're making music and you've put all your chips in and you're trying to make music on the road is the key here, right? Because you have to leave everything that you've ever known and try to make a living that way, then you're fine by me.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm in the biggest UK country band of all time, and like people always say, "Are you country? Is that country?" And I just don't care.
You can't
music,
even acknowledge that question. No. You know, if it's country to you and it's meaningful, then it's country to somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, you go to Nashville, you got these demos, you get the big record deal with Big Machine, Drinkin Problem. I mean, did that take you by surprise? How big it went, or?
Well, before that, we went as songwriters.
Okay, I didn't know.
To keep going and writing, and we just started meeting other writers and producers and people, and then we were able to go to the late great Ben Vaughn at Warner Chapel, and we showed him all the music that we had already written together, and the demos that we had, and he signed us to a publishing deal first. So that was what kind of put the wind in our sails and afforded us the ability to kind of go back and forth between Texas, riding out there, playing, really starting to gig and do that heavy. We were booking our own shows. Then we met Lisa Janicek, and we had somebody that was actually starting to book us, and more major, bars and honky tonks and stuff. So we were doing that at home and rehearsing. I was living above the rehearsal space at Cam's little farm. And we got together, I want to say that at the early days, it was literally 5-6 days a week.
Oh, it was every day.
I think it was just every day. We would just
set
didn't know
up anybody else.
So we were building a band, and we were auditioning, trying to find drummers and guitar players and that whole thing. So we were just playing music 7 days a week, all the time. And we were living with each other. Jess lived right down the street. We just became inseparable, and we were just like this gang.
Yeah.
And for me, it was amazing because I grew up on a ranch out in Arizona, and I grew up in a live honky tonk. We've got live, country music Friday, Saturday, Sunday, rock and roll, country, Mexican, Huaracho style harp. And I just remember when we went out to Texas and recorded, I just felt like I was returning to my roots, and it felt so good after 10 years in LA. This just felt like the move. And then to get to do it with these two guys that were, the two funniest fuckers I'd ever met. And either we're sitting there playing jokes on one another, telling stories, trying to make each other laugh, or we're talking musical history and we're talking about, oh, have you heard this? Have you heard this? Have you heard that? Just constantly exploring music, then going in and playing, and then somebody's got a new song idea. So it was just, honestly, looking back on it, I don't look back a lot. And looking back on that, it was just such a magical experience, such a magical time. It was just, I hate to say this, but
If
it was
you're
just
going
pure.
Like this, my bank account was going like this. I went completely broke and had to borrow money from our manager, who was basically just a friend who was smarter than we were.
Yeah.
And things were getting dicey. Things were getting really dicey because we all had left everything that we had built as grown-up men in LA, and now we're living out. We're basically getting beer money at the end of every night and free sandwiches.
Yeah.
So things were, we had a really great
They're good
support
sandwiches,
system.
The thing is, when you pay your dues out, that makes it so worthwhile, doesn't it? It's like you wouldn't do it again.
yeah,
It
I
was
mean,
a crazy time, but
dues, yeah.
No, I think if any artist truly knew what was in front of them, the amount of hours, the amount of dedication, the amount of energy, the emotions, the fucking fights, the conflicts, the resolutions, all these things. I don't think anybody would pursue this if they really. If you said, okay, this is everything you're gonna have to do to get here from 2014 to right now, sitting at this podcast with you in London. I'd be like, no, I'm good.
I was going to say, 'cause in
I'll
between
be a
your
bartender
first
or
album
something.
and second, didn't you do something like 350 or 80 shows in a year or something?
Back in those days, yeah, we definitely, because Drinkin Problem, like, I know for me personally, I didn't think that we were going to have radio success. Like you were asking, like, what do we think was going to happen? And we had gotten the publishing deal, and then we had played a show in Nashville, and the head of A&R from Big Machine came, and she kind of alluded that they wanted to sign us. I remember this moment when the manager said, yeah, they're interested in signing you, but it's going to take a year to get this deal done. And that just like blew my mind. I was like, oh, they want to sign us. Like, we're going to sign some papers next week. And there were people who kind of wanted us to hang tight. And we got a booking agent who was just in the Austin area. And that's how we started playing these small gigs and weekly gigs and being kind of a house band at places like Pootie's Roadhouse and all that stuff. And so for me, my North Star was this label New West. I don't know if you remember them. I don't know if they're around anymore, but they had Dwight Yoakam back in the 80s, and Steve Earle, and people who were successful but kind of left of the dial. And that was like, if we could get on New West, that would be the coolest. I did not think that Drinkin Problem would be played on the radio because, I mean, you wouldn't have at that time. You just would not have, listening to the radio in 2016, 2017, you would not think that Drinkin Problem could be on the radio because there wasn't steel guitar and, people like Florida Georgia Line and I can't remember.
But I think, like you said, Cam, it's like provocative. It was different, wasn't it? I mean, it was such a
It was
breath of
different.
fresh air. I loved it when it came out.
It sounded a lot different than what was on the radio. So I just didn't think that it was going to be. So, but the first thing we did was go on a radio tour in a van. So we went and visited almost every reporting radio station in America via a van.
Yeah.
For like a year straight.
Yeah, we did that. And so that was a lot of days on the road. And then we didn't say no to anything for probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. You can't though, can you, at that point? You just can't, you can, but you feel like you have to.
Well, they dangle a carrot, and you're so damn scared that it's going to evaporate right before your eyes. So you say yes to everything.
Yeah.
So we would do stuff like we'd be playing in the West Coast and then somebody would say, hey, whoever canceled on the Fallon show, you can play a show and get on a plane and fly overnight, tape that, come back to the West Coast, like whatever, and we would just say yes to everything, and so yeah, it was a lot.
You got a bit burnt out in that time, didn't you? Because didn't you have vocal issues as well, Mark, during that time as well?
Yeah, I think that was, it was also a different deal for me too, because I was single and didn't have a family, and I was kind of burning the candle on both ends. And, just as Jess alluded to, I mean, 3 radio performances, then a 90-minute set, and that was like a standard day. And then you're just doing that like 6 days a week. And I probably didn't know how to take care of my voice, and I probably wasn't doing that. So yeah, I was getting vocal nodules, and I had to go see a doctor. And there was a lot of tension in the band. Everybody was exhausted. It kind of was, I felt like it was almost coming to a head, and then COVID hit. And then all of a sudden, we weren't with each other 5 days, 6 days a week, every day, traveling. And it was really necessary, I feel like, to get that rest. But then once that thing that you had just been building and building and building and had all this momentum, once that went away, I think everybody realized how lucky we are. And you had worked and gone all in and gambled everything to make this thing happen. And then all of a sudden, there's a possibility that it's just been ripped away from you right before your eyes. And I feel like that was the real reset for us as collaborators, as a band, and also the way that we looked at touring and started making it more sustainable.
Yeah.
In general.
I think it's the journey that every band seems to go through, don't they? To get to this point where it's like, we have families now. We're not just going to say yes to everything. You have to, I've got 3 kids who I was like, getting ready this morning, and it's like, you have to do that balance, and it's really tricky.
It's a tough balance, but through all of this and getting through, as you said, every band has this breaking point, and to be honest with you, most bands just break up.
Yeah.
And then they just say, fuck you, we're done with this shit.
Most bands get 2 albums, that's it really, isn't it? You guys are...
And I don't even know what album is it, our 6th album, technically?
It's also, there's not bands.
Yeah.
There's just so few bands.
It is refreshing, I must admit. We normally have one person that
I don't know what it is, if it's refreshing or completely overwhelming, but it's not the soup du jour anymore, like the 90s when rock and roll was like, pop music was all bands, it's just so rare.
Yeah.
I mean, now we get along better than we ever have, and our collaborative relationship is incredible. We never get on each other's nerves or anything. It's amazing.
When you slap it. Just before you go, I just want to mention your last album, Barely Blue, which I think it's beautiful, guys. I mean, it's like, and I know you did a lot of writing on that one, Jess. Like, is that more you, would you say, that record? It feels very, I don't know, it just felt, you did with Dave Cobb as well, obviously, and just the sound of that record I love.
It's all of us. We honestly didn't approach that album, I don't think, differently in the way that the songs came about. They were interpreted very differently than they changed the most, from an acoustic guitar singing a song
Demo
to what we got in the studio. Dave is a guy who he wants to get into the song. He wants to pop the hood and rebuild it from the ground up, which is what we did. And it's also, in a way, the recording process of that album was the closest, not in a way, it was the closest thing that we did to the Sonic Ranch as well.
I really just playing, pretty much not live, but
it is live, yeah.
Oh wow, okay. Wow.
And we didn't do a lot of takes. One song we had never even played in a rehearsal room, and we did it in one take. And there's not a lot of personnel like there was on some of the other albums we did. So you're getting a lot of us doing, the heavy lifting, playing the parts, and so it's very live, very organic, and it's obviously the biggest departure, I would say, and now we're kind of splitting the middle, now we're working with Trent Willman, and who works with Cody Johnson, and a lot of Texas stuff. We've got fiddle in the band now. It's kind of, it's not slick, but it's slicker than Barely Blue. You know what I mean? Barely Blue is like kind of the way the Rolling Stones would record albums, right? Like just sit in a room looking at each other and It's not perfect.
Yeah.
And there was stuff that we knew was not perfect that we just was like, we're going to make the decision to leave it not perfect.
Yeah, I listened on headphones earlier today. I listened to the whole album. It was just magical. I really, like you say, everything you just described, you can really feel that you're in the room as the listener, which I love. I love your records, how you're sort of changing your sound, moving around. But I really did enjoy that. Just before you go, we do quick fire questions all the time. That's right.
Quick fire?
Quick fire, just like one word answers if you can. You can take one each if you want. The place you've never been to but would love to visit.
Japan.
Everyone says that. Everybody says Japan. Everyone.
It's a favorite.
Concur.
Yeah. Probably for you, Jess. The strangest place you've written a song.
Christmas tree farm, probably.
Are you in witness protection? There's something funny about your story. I don't know what it is. Mark, the place you feel most yourself?
On stage.
Yeah, it's rock and roll. Can the place you most like listening to music?
The car.
I can't.
Yeah.
That's the same, yeah. It's pretty good. Someone said the bath the other day, which was interesting.
A lot of verb in there.
Yeah. And just lastly, altogether, your favourite place to perform?
This is one of them, you know, playing in London. This was like, you know, I think the same way the Beatles and people like that would look at America. If you're an American band, you know, you want to come and make an impact in London specifically, you know, Europe, the UK, all that. But this is always kind of the anchor of, it's the biggest crowd we'll play in front of on this tour. And we've worked hard to do it. We came over here multiple times and did it the way that Bruce Springsteen played at the Stone Pony, you know what I mean? Just over and over and over, and just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So to see that growth here in London, it's an exciting.
I've seen those same faces from the early days. It's the most amazing thing. Is it the same for you guys, or different places you'd like to perform?
In London?
Yeah, is that anywhere?
what's better than
Anywhere.
that?
Well, go on. Sorry.
I mean, Shepherd's Bush was cool.
That's the coolest venue.
It's so cool. I mean, the inside. I mean, there's venues here I would love to. I mean, Royal Albert Hall would be amazing, right?
Yeah, I've done that.
You have?
Yeah, it's very, very
Of course
cool.
you have.
Yeah, it's very cool.
What's your favorite?
Probably
best?
Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Shepherd's Bush?
Because you're so close to everyone. Like, everyone's right there, but then you got the balcony as well. Yeah, it's really
we
cool.
played
on my birthday a couple years ago, and it was
really?
just like surreal experience.
We played a show a couple days ago in Amsterdam at Paradiso.
Yeah,
Have you ever played there?
No, I've heard it's amazing.
To me, that might be my favorite venue in Europe to play. I thought it was just a magical, beautiful venue and crazy crowd. So
Royal Ulster Hall in Belfast is cool. They've got a church organ in there, like behind the curtain, that you can actually
Did you play it?
play. I didn't, but our piano player did to intro us into the show.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
There's so many old
do that.
venues here too. Like it's amazing that, you know, Europe is so much older than America too, and which anyway, it's fun to be here. It's very exotic feeling.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. That was Midland on Country Roads.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Well, I'm super grateful to Mark, Jess and Cam for stopping by in the middle of a really hectic European tour. To make the time was just so cool of them. If you enjoyed this chat as much as I did and laughed as much as I did, please comment below and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. This is a production by Spiritland Creative, produced by Emma Roberts and Joe Haddo, and presented by me, Ben Earl. I'll be back next Thursday with another brilliant guest from the world of country music. I'll see you then.